for every year that people remain healthy, every additional year, it's worth $38 billion to the global economy, which is massive. You know, I have two 12-year-old boys. I had at 50. I'm looking forward to seeing them when they turn 50 and I'm 100. I'm excited to see humans walking on Mars, starting colonies on the moon. I love life and I want to live as much of it as I possibly can. You know, we are going to make cancer, heart disease, neurodegenerative disease a thing of the past.
All right, guys, bang, bang. I've got Peter here. Peter, you are the founder of XPRIZE. It's probably one of the coolest projects, in my opinion. You guys put a big, big dollar amount out there and you say anyone in the world, regardless of who you are, where you come from, what your background is, if you can solve this problem, you get this prize. And it used to be, $1 million, $10 million. Now you're launching $100 million X prizes. Why is it so important to have a prize that people are really driving towards to continue to drive innovation and ambition?
Thanks, buddy. It's good to see you. You know, there's a saying I love that without a target, you'll miss it every time. We are, as a species, extraordinarily good in competition, right? We do our best work when we're competing in the Olympics or in business. Why not do that as well in solving the world's biggest problems? And so when we run these competitions, we put a target. We say, like you said, I don't care where you went to school, what you've ever done, if you solve this problem, and this is what you have to do. And it aims everybody in the same direction and gives them a target to shoot for. And a lot of times people are looking for an excuse. They're looking for a reason to jump in. And these X prizes incentivize people. Now, here's what's different today. It used to be that 100 years ago, the only people who could make a difference on a big problem were the kings and the queens, the industrialists, the government. But now, a small team using AI, using, the technologies that are at our fingertips can do something miraculous. And so we're looking at crowdsource solutions. And so that's what we're doing. We're saying, what are the world's biggest problems? How do we target people to solve them? And we create a level playing field where a small, brilliant, team can compete against a big one. There's one other important point I should make here, that it's a saying I love, which is the day before something is a breakthrough, it's a crazy idea. Right? If it weren't a breakthrough, if it weren't a crazy idea, it would be an expected improvement. But if it truly is a crazy idea, and where inside organizations do you try crazy ideas? Large companies are fearful of failure. Governments don't want congressional investigations. And so it becomes the young team that is willing to try a crazy idea and fail over and over and over again.
Now, the latest X Prize is around longevity or increasing health span. And I think maybe a great way to think about this is like people always want to be healthy for the most part. But there's two ways that you can think about this. You can think about it as I want to live to 150. And so literally extending life. Yes. Or you could think about it as improving the quality of the years that you have. And I think the holy grail is to do both, to have more years and also have a higher quality of the years. How are you thinking about longevity today, and why do we need the X Prize to really drive forward some of these breakthroughs in longevity?
Great question. So, lifespan is how long your heart's ticking. Health span is how long do you feel vibrant, energetic, alive. It's interesting. I was about 5-6 years ago, I was on the stage of the Vatican at a medical conference, and in the room was, cardinals and priests and physicians and scientists, and it was a crazy audience. And I was speaking about the morality of immortality. And I asked an innocent question to the room, 500 people in the room there, right? All at the invitation of the Pope. And I said, how many of you want to live to 120 years old? And I expected everyone's hands to go up and like 20% of the room raised their hands. And I'm like, what's up? And the problem is that we have a mental image of 120 as being slobbering in a wheelchair, disabled. And that historically is true. And so no one wants that. And so we need to change that. So lifespan and health span is living to 120 in a vibrant way, that you're enjoying life, you're hanging out with your great-great-grandchildren, and you're cognitively, physically there. So this XPRIZE, we've done well in lifespan. We doubled over the last century from 40 to 80 years old, roughly. But that's lifespan. Health span still lags by 10 years. So this prize we've launched, to get into the specifics, it's a $101 million purse. And it's 101 million because the friend of mine, Chip Wilson, the founder of Lululemon, who put up the first roughly $30 million, wanted it to be bigger than the prize we had with Elon Musk, which was $100 million for carbon removal. And so, funny enough, we ended up making it 101. Then Chip added another $10 million of bonus money for his particular disease, which is a muscular dystrophy called FSHD. It's 111 million of prize money. And to win this prize, a team needs to demonstrate that they have a therapy that, if given for up to a year, could reverse your cognitive, your muscular, and immune age by 20 years, right? So that, and this is going to be done in patients and subjects age 65 and older. So we need to show that you have the, as we grow older, we start to lose function across everything. Our cognitive function, our muscular, our strength and ability to build muscle, our ability to mount an immune defense against a challenge of some type. What if you could turn back the clock 10 years or 20 years on those three things? That's what this challenge is about. We announced it in actually Saudi Arabia. It's funded by a foundation called Hevolution, which is out of Riyadh in the US, and with Chip Wilson and a number of benefactors, including myself. We have over 200 teams entered so far. I expect we'll get close to 1,000. And this competition will run through 2030. And I hope it will source amazing new approaches to maintain our health a decade or two longer is the goal.
When we see people talking about longevity today, I think there are the David Sinclairs. Hey, we're in a lab and we're doing what most people would consider kind of academic research to try to find maybe things we can take or food we should eat or various protocols that we should follow. Then you can go and you can look at someone like a Brian Johnson, who, is doing everything from getting peptide injections all the way to literally, I think he recently announced he got Botox injected into his male genitalia, and, trying to figure out how does that have an impact. There's obviously the, use of young people's blood that, whether it's venture capitalists to, many others over the years have been rumored to do. And so there's all these kind of, again, crazy ideas or wacky ideas. When you evaluate the space today, like, what are the things that are working, right? Like when you say, hey, I'm talking to a friend, they say, I want to live a longer life. Are there things that maybe are like free? And then there's things that the average person could afford that they could do?
Yeah, for sure. Let me frame it as following. There's an idea called longevity escape velocity. And that concept, put forward by Aubrey de Grey and Ray Kurzweil, I love it because when people say, how long do you want to live, Peter? I used to give some ridiculous multi-100-year answer. Ridiculous only because if you hit longevity escape velocity, you can live as long as you desire. So what does that mean? Today, for every year that you're alive, science is extending your life for a quarter to a third of a year, right? There are breakthroughs every year that are making you healthier and living longer. There is a moment in time where that for every year that you're alive, science is extending your life for more than a year, right? And that concept is called longevity escape velocity. And it's a departure. So the question is, when will we reach this idea of longevity escape velocity? And I interviewed a number of individuals, Ray Kurzweil, George Church, David Sinclair, and the belief is that it is in the neighborhood of 15 years out, maybe 20 years out. at most as a result of AI and quantum technologies, and maybe sooner. And so what you really want to do is, how do you maintain your health for the next 10 years, the next 20 years? You don't want to be the last person to arrive, the day before longevity escape velocity. So what do you do now? And I ended up writing this book, Longevity, Practical Playbook, outlining everything I do and why. And it falls into a number of categories. The first is the basics that are free, right? And it is first and foremost exercise. I hate to say it, people don't like to do it. I do. I work out at least with weights 4 days a week, and I'm on a techno gym bike for 3 or 4 days a week, getting my zone 2 training, but it's adding muscle mass. I added 10 pounds of muscle last year, aggressively to get there, because there's a direct correlation between muscle and longevity. And there are things you can do to maintain and grow your muscle mass. It gets harder as you get older, and you have to work harder for it, but it is definitely worth it. Exercising just once or twice a week reduces your chance of all-cause mortality by 50%, reduces the chance of cancer by 3-fold. It's a big deal. If exercise could be bottled in a pill, it would be $1 trillion medical miracle, right? So people know it, just got to do it. And frankly, any amount of exercise is better than being a couch potato and sitting down. The second thing is diet, and there's no one diet for everybody, but there are a few things that are true. And I hate to say it, but sugar is a poison. The body never evolved to eat as much sugar as we do. It's a inflammatory factor, cardiovascular and neuroinflammatory. It's bad. And so it's addictive. And so minimizing high glycemic index foods and sugar, and breaking that sugar addiction is one of the most important things. Maximizing vegetables, colored vegetables. Sleep, 8 hours of sleep, fundamental. The body could have evolved away. It didn't. Sleep is part. I used to, like in medical school, I would be so proud when I do, I can do this in 4.5 or 5 hours of sleep, right? Mindset is incredibly important. There's a great study I quote in the book of 69,744 women and 1,429 guys. And it was done by the National Academy of Sciences, or published in the National Academy of Science Proceedings. And optimists lived 15% longer than pessimists. Amazing. And then the final thing for me, I talk about the meds and supplements, and I'm on rapamycin, and I take berberine instead of metformin, and I don't want to go into that because everybody's different, but I outline everything I do, and I say, see your doctor. But the last thing that I think is so important, and is not dying from something stupid. If I were to ask you, Pomp, do you know what's going on inside your body right now? Are you sure that there's nothing going on inside your body you need to worry about? How do you answer it?
No, of course not. You want to think that you do, but you 100% don't. And I'll even give it a step further. I have friends who say, hey, I go see a doctor, every 6 months, and I try to stay on top of what the recommended thing is. My wife and I had our second child, and we went to go see the doctor the day before the baby was born. And she said, oh, you guys have at least 2 more weeks before the baby's going to be born. And 12, 15 hours later, she shows up to the hospital and realizes that we're there. And she's like, I wasn't expecting to see you for 2 weeks. Well, we're like, hey, you're the doctor, right? Aren't you supposed to know? 2 weeks to 12 hours later, that's a pretty big difference. And part of it is, even if you have the medical professional, it's really hard, right? That the human body is so unique, and things can get missed or misinterpreted as well. This episode is brought to you by Freck. Historically, the wealthy had a hidden secret in investing. They would spend a lot of money and use very big teams to conduct tax loss harvesting. Tax loss harvesting is the timely selling of securities at a loss to offset the amount of capital gains tax owed from selling the profitable assets later. But now Freck is bringing this incredible advantage to any investor. They'll literally lower your tax bill, regardless of how much money you have.
They use state-of-the-art technology through a product called direct indexing to allow investors to invest in the S&P 500 while getting all the benefits of tax loss harvesting without the big bill. If you want to learn more, go check them out at frec.com. That's FREC.com. I'm a big fan of the product, and I even became an investor in the business. Frec.com. Go check them out today.
So yeah, 100%. So we know more about what's going on inside our car or our refrigerator than we do our body. And that's a problem. I'm going to give you some of the facts. So first of all, you have to realize that the body is incredibly good at hiding disease. The body compensates, which is amazing, right? So you don't feel cancer at stage 1 or stage 2. Only when it reaches stage 3 or stage 4 do you feel something. At which point, sometimes, it's too late. You don't feel an aneurysm that's developing. 70% of all heart attacks have no precedent, no shortness of breath, no pain, no anything. And half of the heart attacks end up in death. So it's like, boom, like we've all had friends. I had a fraternity brother of mine who was going to go down to Fountain Life a month. He had made an appointment a month out. He died in his sleep. Another friend of mine went through Fountain Life in our Orlando facility because we were going to do business together. I said, go through it, experience it, And we found 2 brain aneurysms. He was in surgery a week later and then back at work a week after that. So in our first 5,000 members who go through, and what Fountain Life is, it's a full body upload. It's everything knowable about your body that's knowable. It's, full body MRI, brain vasculature, an AI-enabled coronary CT looking for soft plaque, DEXA scan, full genome, metabolome, microbiome, 120 blood biomarkers, everything. And out of the first 5,000 members, 2%, 2 out of 100 people have a cancer they don't know about. 2.5% have an aneurysm they don't know about. 14.4% have a significant life-saving finding: metabolic disease, cardiovascular disease, neurodegenerative disease, cancer, aneurysms. And so, listen, the body was never evolved to live past age 30. And it's downhill from there. And so stuff starts going on, you just don't know about it. And so people say, I don't want to know. It's like, bullshit. Of course you want to know. You're going to find out. You want to find out about now or when it's too late. So I write about that in this book on the chapter I call Don't Die from Something Stupid. And I think not looking is kind of silly. So, sleep, diet, exercise, understand what's going inside your body. And then there's a whole slew of new therapeutics coming out. And this health span XPRIZE is going to drive a lot of those breakthroughs as well.
What about, I'm going to call it consumer wearables as kind of a category. If I think of my own personal life, the Apple Watch, it's not the most stylish watch. Actually, some people would say, hey, why are you wearing that stupid watch? But I noticed that it tells me how many steps I take, or, did I close my rings in terms of exercise? And for whatever reason, it makes me want to make sure that I close the rings. And so it has this like great feedback loop. I know people who wear the Aura ring where they sleep on an 8-sleep mattress, or, name your device. Yeah. And it feels like maybe the tech sector and where it intersects with health is driving better behaviors to some degree. And then on the other hand, you also have people who just sit at their desk all day and doom scroll on their favorite social media app, and maybe that's actually contributing to negative side effects. So how do you kind of think about tech, and its evolution here?
Yeah, I have an appendix at the back of this book that lists all the stuff available and the stuff that I use. And by the way, you can get a free digest. It's not the full book. It's a summary of 30-page summary of all the book, and includes that list. If someone goes to diamandis.com/longevity, you can get it. I just want to get this information out there. I'm always wearing a continuous glucose monitor, right? Either by levels or by Free Libre, and monitoring my glucose levels. Not because I just want to be, it keeps me cognizant of what I'm eating, right? I don't want to eat something and watch it spike. I wear my Aura ring, not because it puts me to sleep, but because it reminds me in the morning that I'm going to be looking to get a sleep score above 90, right? I have an 8 sleep mattress as well. I've got actually it's charging my Apple Watch. My venture fund, Bold Capital, about 2/3 of our investments are in biotech, and there's a whole slew of new wearables. So one of the places that Fountain Life is going, we have these centers, we're building out centers around the world. But the ultimate goal is Fountain at Home, where your wearables, and as a Fountain member, you get a number of wearables integrated into our digital app that your physician is watching with you, for you. Ultimately, all of these wearables are also in your room, in your mattress of your bed, in your chair, listening to your typing, your voice, what your cough is like, and all of this data is going to your AI, which is your ultimate diagnostician, and it's catching things even earlier. So health monitoring will be 24/7 eventually. If you want it to be, you can turn it on or turn it off.
When you see that health monitoring, how much of it is personalized foods, right? And these things that, lab grown meats. And we're starting to see innovation where I think people are saying, okay, today it looks just like, can we change the cost structure? Or maybe there's a animal and humanity, type of approach to this. But is it really that far off from us to say, okay, I'm monitoring my glucose and these other markers on a continuous basis. I'm not getting enough of a certain, vitamin, mineral, protein, whatever. And so therefore I'm going to start to cater my diet, but not just order from a certain place or cook a certain food. I'm actually going to have the food specially made in a personalized way to my exact needs. Or is that a little bit too sci-fi?
No, not at all. I think that is definitively coming. We've talked about that specifically at Fountain Life as an adjacency with our residential partners. But so, for example, I don't eat gluten. I don't eat dairy. I don't eat gluten because that's what my lab results tell me, right? And if you're being monitored 24/7 by what's going on, your vitamin levels, your hormone levels, all of that, it is possible for your AI to know exactly what foods you should or should not eat, and to be transmitting that to the right agents that are producing your foods. So I do think in the final result, and I don't think it's more than 2 to 5 years max out, but your health biomarkers will determine the food you end up eating in an automagical way, if you want to turn that function on.
When I think of the furthest out of all of this, recently there was an announcement around the enhanced games, which is the Olympics, but you basically can take whatever steroids, do whatever you want.
I love the idea, by the way. I do love it.
Yeah.
And I know the team built who's proposed it. Yes.
And is that where kind of sports, culture, society in general, like, should we expect to have a leaner, fitter, society of people because the science gets infused in a way? Or things like maybe Ozempic, where, it can help you lose weight, but there's concerns around, muscle mass or bone density and kind of some of the downsides. Like, how do you think about just like the augmentation of humans, both for culture and society, but also for sport, like in the enhanced games?
Yeah. It used to be that where we were born, what gender we're born into, what religion we're born into, all of that determined the rest of our life forever. The caste system and so forth. Today, that is no longer the case. You can reinvent yourself. I think that the most interesting reinvention is going to be coming from CRISPR and gene therapies, right? So, for example, to take it a slightly different direction, there are 130 trials going on right now for CRISPR treatments. So again, we learned how to sequence the human genome. the price went from 3 billion to 100 million. It's down to $200 now for your genome, the 3 billion letters from your mom and your dad. And your genome, your software, determines a lot, not everything. It turns out that your genome only is responsible for at maximum 20% of your longevity. Lifestyle changes are the vast majority. But if you have a genetic disease, genetic blindness, hearing loss, sickle cell anemia, beta thalassemia, a whole slew of diseases because a particular nucleotide in your 3.2 billion letters is off, you can now use CRISPR, right? Two amazing women will win the Nobel Prize in chemistry for CRISPR in 2020, the ability to go in and edit your genome in your body. And that's biblical, right? So you can now go and edit yourself. There are other gene hacks which will allow you to eventually build more muscle or be able to, change the color of your skin or your hair, or there's all kinds of things that are coming, and designer babies may be a thing in the future. So there are lots of different directions that we're going to go. And society, the problem is that society is ill prepared to deal with these things at the speed at which they're developing. Yeah, the enhanced games is cool, and I'd love to see what the long jump looks like for someone who's been hacked in a way. It's more out of morbid curiosity than anything else. I think the Olympics will always be the gold standard, but I think just like we went from wrestling to what's it called when you're in a cage, like cage fights where you can do anything you want, right? It's like people like the extreme, but it's also nice to know what the unaltered natural human can do. But there's a place for both.
Now, you said the society is ill prepared. Why are they ill prepared, or what can we do to become more rapidly prepared?
Human beings don't like change. Fundamentally, we like waking up in the morning and knowing that the world is the same world we went to sleep in. We have institutions, governments, religious institutions, and such, which are stabilizing forces. I learned long ago that people, to a large degree, fear the future because they don't understand it. And the faster things are moving, the more concerned they get because they understand the game they're playing. And, I just gave a talk to a middle school out here in LA to 150 teachers about where things are going. And rather than being excited, I think I scared the shit out of them, which was concerning to me, but nonetheless, it is what it is. And the only constant is change, and the speed of change is increasing, especially with what we're seeing in generative AI these days and humanoid robots that are coming. And so because the change is so fast, and we deal with the reaction through culture, through government laws, through institutions that don't change, that don't like to change, it's just going to be, there is going to be a diversion where we linear humans are constantly causing or being disrupted or causing disruption on institutions. So we're seeing it. It's just going to continue to accelerate.
When we see the augmentation of society and of the human, I recently tweeted and I said that there's an increasing correlation between fake lips, fake news, and fake money, right? And it seems like the society, fake is a negative connotation, but there are some benefits to some of these things, and obviously huge detrimental impact to others. How do you think about sifting through some of these evolutions as good or bad? Fake lips is kind of like, well, maybe it makes someone happy. Also, maybe it screws up their body. Maybe it doesn't, neither one. Like, how do you kind of use as a framework to evaluate these developments?
Yeah. We have to remember, listen, I'm 62 years old. I feel like I'm in my best shape ever, and I'm working hard on that. It's important to me. I prioritize it, second only to my kids. But I've gotten here and I'm in the best shape I'm in because of all the things I do in my own biohacks. Um, is it natural? No, natural is dead by 30. I mean, just to remember, right? 100,000 years ago, you would have a baby at age 12 when you went into puberty. You'd be pregnant by 13. By the time you were 26, 27, 28, you were a grandparent. And before we had McDonald's and Whole Foods, and food was abundant, your purpose was to perpetuate the species, pass on the genes, and you didn't want to compete against your grandchildren for food. And society would have you die. So the body was never built to live past age 30. Just to be hyper clear for anybody here over 30, you're on borrowed time, buddy. So but we enhance that. We solve these things. We create antibiotics. We pasteurize milk. We get better sanitation. We learn how to catch disease early. We learn which foods do and do not injure us. Anyway, the point being, we're always modifying the game. Fake is a term we apply like, was like, I was on CNBC talking about the Taylor Swift deep fakes, and Trump using, claiming deep fakes and all of that. And yeah, those are issues. When they're negative, we call them deep fakes. When they're positive things, we call them avatars. We give them different names, right? And digital avatars are extremely valuable on a multitude of ways, for education, for business, for sales, for marketing, for bringing back loved ones eventually. So I don't know that it's anything different than it's ever been. It's just a lot more, moving a lot faster. And our institutions are evolving at the speed of humans, not at the speed of AI.
When you see other technologies that are pushing us forward through innovation, we have Bitcoin, we have artificial intelligence. These are things that you and I have talked about before. Where do you see those now? Is this something where everything gets pushed forward together, kind of in a techno-optimist view of the world, and it's, they all benefit if AI gets pushed forward, then these other technologies benefit? Or are they somewhat siloed, and progress on Bitcoin doesn't necessarily indicate progress on, longevity or AI or something like that?
This episode is brought to you by Bet Online. Do you like making a profit from sports betting? Well, set yourself up to take home the most profit possible using crypto to fund your sports betting, casino, and poker account at betonline.ag. You can avoid costly transaction fees, get your payouts lightning fast, and do it all securely and anonymously with the highest deposit and withdrawal limits in the industry. If you want to get in on the action, do it the smart way with crypto at betonline.ag. Head to the website, sign up with promo code POMP100 to get a 100% bonus on your crypto deposit today. If you go and you deposit, they'll give you 100% bonus if you use promo code POMP100. Bet Online. The game starts here. BetOnline.ag. Go check them out today.
I think they're all moving in some unison. For example, Bitcoin is predicated on blockchain, and blockchain may be the most important technology to prevent deep fakes on the negative side, right? Having some mechanism of a authentication in the metadata of a image or a video that's on the blockchain that allows you to verify it. And of course, AI enables you to do the research and do that better, and computational speed, and the ability for someone in the middle of India using YouTube to educate themselves, and being able to communicate with people in Thailand and in California for free on WhatsApp. I mean, all these things are just making the world faster and faster. The question ultimately is, do you believe that human nature is on the whole good or bad? if you believe on the whole human nature is bad and that all of these technologies, as they become more and more prevalent and available and cheaper and faster, are going to be used for nefarious purposes, then we're screwed. I happen to believe that on the whole human nature is good, and that I define an entrepreneur as someone who finds a problem and solves a problem. And that the more entrepreneurs using these technologies to solve problems, the world is a better and healthier place. You know, it used to be that the only people who could solve significant big problems on the planet were the kings and the queens, the robber barons, the industrialists, you know, very small number of individuals. And even the best that they could do was deploy their troops or change monetary policies. Today, a single individual, you know, powered with the world's knowledge on Google, with you know, generative AI on Gemini or GPT-4, can do something extraordinary. And so, yes, they can do evil, but we're still here and we're still fighting the good fight.
We see rise of robotics in healthcare. We see the rise of AI agents in software, and it feels like at some point someone's going to try to put things like that together. Maybe the most absurd and advanced combination are the humanoid robots, where just take the human completely out of the equation and have a robot do everything that the human can do.
Well, they're happening now, and I've been studying them. Right, Tesla bot, also known as Optimus, out of Tesla, is amazing. There's another company called Figure. Full disclosure, I'm an investor in Figure, also doing humanoid robots. And then Amica, out of Engineered Arts out of the UK, an amazing, emotive humanoid robot. Right. This year at the Abundance Summit, which I hold every March, we're going to spend 2 days on AI. We're calling it the Great AI Debate. And I'm going to be bringing Mustafa Suleyman, who is co-founder of DeepMind, the CEO of Inflection, and Jeffrey Hinton and Ray Kurzweil and Eric Schmidt and Mo Gadot, and Tristan Harris, and we're having a debate about, is AI positive? Is AI negative? Where is it going? How do you think about it? And ultimately, how do you use it to improve your business and make the world a better place? But just on the other side of that are humanoid robots. So we are seeing them now, and the prediction is millions by 2030 and billions by 2040. Right, and so Elon's projection, and I love Elon. Trying to hold him to a schedule and a price is tough. But let's say he's off by a factor of 2. And a Optimus costs $40,000 or $50,000 instead of $20,000. What can you lease a car for that costs $50K? I don't know, $400 a month, $500 a month. So imagine having a fully capable Optimus robot in your closet that, while you're at work, is cutting the grass, cleaning the house, preparing your meals, doing whatever you want. That's pretty amazing, and that's coming.
Now, when you see the rise of that, if you, again, go to the extreme of what humans do, warfare is a huge part of, I think, where technology gets tested, gets innovated on. And we have seen the rise of drones, the rise of various weapon systems. There are now, even in certain proxy wars being fought globally, drones with explosives on them that are being flown into things. Yep. Again, it's kind of like you're mashing the robotics and technology with what should be a human, but the progress is being accomplished by just taking the human out of it and going full on robotics and tech. And maybe a human might control it remotely or be involved tangentially, but it's actually getting the humans out of the way as a limiting factor for progress.
Yeah. Listen, there's no question that AI and robotics of all form is core in the 21st century Defense Department. I had Palmer Luckey, the founder of Oculus, on my stage at Abundance Summit last year, and he's the CEO of Anduril. And Anduril is like one of the most advanced high-tech defense companies that people have never heard of. And it's crazy what he's been able to design, but it is an AI architecture on top of physical drones and subs and trucks. And yeah, that's all concerning. It's concerning from how dehumanizing it is. I think what Palmer would say is it would be much more concerning if we didn't have this ability. Warfare for the longest time has been very inaccurate, and you would drop bombs and hope you got the person, and there was lots of collateral. And his vision is, what if your bombs and your drones and your robots are smart and they can get the individual you want without the collateral damage around it? There is a Star Trek episode, and I love Gene Roddenberry for all he explored in Star Trek. I think it's called The Forever War. And there's just two cultures that got into a war, and they made it so neat and clean that the war, wars are dirty and painful and filled with catastrophes, and you want to stop them, and because of the ancillary impact. And in this episode, the war had become so neat and clean that it was run in a simulation. And if your home got bombed in a simulation, you'd walk into this chamber that would kill you. And it was so neat and clean that the war continued for millennia. And it just went on and on and on and on. And Captain Kirk shows up and destroys this and says, war is supposed to be ugly and dirty, so you don't want to do it ever again. So I don't know. AI and humanoid robotics in war, it's coming. And is our treaties, our politicians smart enough to handle it? I don't know.
Do you think that there will be a day where the president of the United States is AI or robotics, or some version of not the natural human that we have today?
So I think that there is going to be a day very soon that every company is basing its leadership and its decisions on AI. I like to say by 2030, there are two kinds of companies: those that are fully utilizing AI and those that are out of business. Right? I'm super clear about that. There have, as stunts to some degree, been AI board members and AI CEOs installed. When I have a board meeting, when I have a leadership meeting for my companies, I have, Bard or ChatGPT open, and I'm asking it the same questions I'm asking people. Or I might ask, hey, what would Elon Musk think about this problem we're having? Or what would Albert Einstein think about this problem? So one of the problems we have as humans is we don't know how to think other than the way we know how to think. But in using generative AI, you can get different approaches to your problem. So we're there in part. I would hope that the leadership at all levels of our nation are going to be using generative AI for their future decisions.
What is the thing that you are most excited about when it comes to longevity over the next 20 years, right? We've talked about technology, we've talked about AI, we talked about Bitcoin, robotics. There's all this stuff that's going on. But when it's in the longevity field, what is the thing that you're most looking forward to?
I think, well, first of all, getting the XPRIZE won. It's changing people's vision of what 120 looks like. There was a study done at Harvard, London School of Business, Oxford, that said for every year that people remain healthy, every additional year, it's worth $38 billion to the global economy, which is massive. And so at the end of the day, I think it's one of the most important tipping points society can have. I have two 12-year-old boys. I had at 50. I'm looking forward to seeing them when they turn 50 and I'm 100. That is a beautiful thing to think about that. I think about, my heart as a child was always in space. I'm excited to see humans walking on Mars, starting colonies on the moon. I'm excited to see the fulfillment of the science fiction future that will be 10, 20, 30 years out. And I'm excited to participate in that. So all of that, I love life and I want to live as much of it as I possibly can. So, I mean, that's the way I think about it. We are going to make cancer, heart disease, neurodegenerative disease a thing of the past. It will be washed away in the wake of these longevity treatments. We will learn how to reprogram our epigenome, right? So I'll ask you a question that I ask people to ponder this. So you have 3.2 billion letters from your mom and 3.2 billion letters from your dad. You had it at birth. You have the same exact software you're running at 20, at 40, at 60, at 80, and 100. If you have the same software running at 100 years old, why don't you look like you were when you're 20? Right? It's the same software. Well, it's not what genes you have. It's what genes are on and what genes are off. It's your epigenome, from the Greek word for above. And as we age, what happens is the right genes get turned on, but sometimes they don't, or sometimes the genes are supposed to be off are not off. And that blurring of the lines causes aging to a large degree. And so some of the work done by David Sinclair and George Church and others has said, we should be able to control our epigenome, control what genes are on or off, and take your epigenetic control system back to a younger state. So that's longevity, escape velocity for sure. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm going to do everything I can to, including my breakfast that just got served up, which is some eggs and some olive oil and some avocado, which is staring at me over here. But I'll hold off. Do everything I can to get there. And part of it means making choices, not to have that bowl of ice cream, not to sit on your butt all day.
Where can we send people to get the book or learn more about the XPRIZE?
Yeah. So the book, if you want to buy the hardcover, it's on Amazon. Just look up Diamandis and Longevity, Your Practical Playbook. If you go to diamandis.com/longevity, you can link to the book there, but you also get a 30-page digest, which includes everything I'm doing and taking. It's a distillation of the book. And I just want to get the stuff out there. XPRIZE, XPRIZE.org is where you can learn about the XPRIZE. We have launched $500 million in prizes to map the ocean floor, pull water out of the atmosphere. We have a $100 million prize for gigaton carbon removal that Elon funded. 6,000 teams entered that competition. And of course, our $101 million health span XPRIZE going on now. So, that's it. If you're interested in what I do for coaching CEOs, Abundance 360 is my CEO program that I run year round. It's part of Singularity University. And then Fountain Life, we have saved hundreds of lives at Fountain Life. There's no better investment, honestly. Anyway, I'll leave it at that.
I'm inspired every time I talk with you. The future is going to be absolutely insane and awesome at the same time. And we'll do this again in the future to talk about some of the developments.
Buddy. Thank you for sharing your time with me. Grateful for you. And, it is the most extraordinary time ever to be alive. And I like to say, life is short until you extend it. So enjoy. A pleasure, Pomp.